All right.
Y'all fire.
Got a few.
Charlton, when you looked at tape from last year and saw kind of how the defensive back struggled, did you think this kind of season would be possible in terms of the improvement that they've shown?
I tell you, everything I saw on tape as I came here and decided to take this job was a lot of guys that had a lot of ability. Everything that happened to them bad had nothing to do with talent. Had nothing to do with height, weight, and speed. It had everything to do with technique and fundamentals, in my opinion. And so to me, what I told them, I said, I don't really care about scheme. I don't care if we call one defense every single time, okay? We're gonna be great in fundamentals and technique, and you will jump by half and be half as good as you were last year. So I think that was the number one thing I saw is correction of fundamentals, technique, a little bit of eye discipline, a lot of eye discipline.
Right.
And I think, to their credit, they really, really bought into that fact and changed everything they did about themselves as a defensive back. There was resistance, obviously, initially, because I've been doing it for so long, Coach. Didn't really matter. We're going to do it this way every single time, and you'll see the fruits of that labor later on.
There were times, and you mentioned eye discipline. It felt like last year you would watch guys, the ball would come over their shoulder. They don't have their head around it.
Right.
Is that something you looked at and said that's a priority? Is it something
Day one,
that's just fun, foundational you teach with everything?
Day one for me was about how to play the ball in the air, when not to, when you can, when to play the hands, when to long arm it and knock a ball down for a PBU, when to use two hands and go for the pick. Because I saw a lot of times on film last year, they would use the wrong arm and reaching for a ball, balls caught, score. And understanding coverage concepts. If I got no one behind me, okay, how can I gamble? I got to secure the tackle, because if I miss and it goes 60, that's not good defense. I'd rather you tackle it for a gain of 10 and let's play another down. So understanding coverage concept of when you have help, when you don't, when you can take that gamble with the correct arm and when you can't, that was paramount to the number one thing I saw for these guys when making a play on the ball, and then being in phase or out of phase to play the ball based on the pass.
Is that something that they naturally are in a better position to look for the ball?
Yes, so we never look back for a ball until we're hip for hip with our shoulder into a receiver. I don't care where the ball is. That's the only time to me you're in phase. It's just like a box out in basketball. You don't ever go for that ball before you put that body in that guy and wall him off with your shoulder. No different when you're playing the ball down the field. And if you can't do that, you see what happened in Pittsburgh the other day where you long arm and knock a ball down and you're able to knock the ball out of the receiver's hand. Everything ain't gonna be a pick. Something's gonna be a pass breakup and some things are gonna be a tackle. You gotta have the instinct to know when that play is gonna happen.
Do you still see some of the old habits creep up every once in a while?
I do. And
is it less every game?
It's less every game. It's less. Well, I hope we don't get to the game. It's less every practice. Yeah. And every time it happens, I always correct technique. I don't care what this call was. Stop. Your hand was wrong. Your feet were wrong. You reached with the wrong arm. We do one-on-ones every practice against our wideouts, and we got great guys to go against those big three jokers we got in Switz, and you can expose some fundamentals real quick in one-on-one, and so. We break down one-on-one after every practice and go in and watch one-on-one, and that's what I put it on those plays. Do it on your own. Come back to me and tell me why that ball was caught. And I make them be accountable for that every single day. So they're seeing their techniques flawed or good, and every time they don't make a play, it can always go back to fundamentals and technique, never ability.
You may have already talked about this already, but MJ missed games against Wake and Virginia.
Okay.
What did you like out of his performance?
The other day?
Week? Yeah.
I'd say production. Very, very productive, very sound in coverage. You see him productive making tackles in open field. You see him productive as a blitzer getting a sack. You see him productive on split reductions and passing off routes and making pass breakups. The one thing I didn't like is he dropped a pick that should have been a pick six the other night. But I just saw a guy that does what he's been doing all year. He's been very, very productive in multiple ways for our defense, playing corner, playing nickel, playing special teams. And that's really what you want, a bunch of guys that can do production. You don't want to look at a guy who's played 60 plays and he has no production. Well, I want teams to feel his presence. We want to feel his presence as a defense. So he gave us a lot of production the other night.
How do you make sense of the Brian Walker situation, and how does that affect depth and rotational?
It doesn't affect it from the standpoint we're coaching the heck out of guys that are here and want to compete. I think like everything else this year, we've had guys that miss for multiple reasons, and the next guy stepped in and played. The backups here, there are no true backups here. Okay, we don't use the word ones and twos. Okay, because that can happen the first play of the game, and you got to play 70 snaps. So everybody that's practicing is a guy that I feel can go in a game and not have any drop-off. And so if a guy gets hurt, if a guy gets suspended, if a guy decides to quit, all those things happen. The next guy's got to be ready to roll, and we're not going to change what we do as coaches or scheme-wise because the next guy's up. everybody's ready to play.
What do you think of just what went down there? Was it a surprise?
You'd have to talk to him. You know, I'm always focused on the guys that are here and want to compete and want to play.
J.K. Britt started out on the depth chart when he first got here. Seems like his playing time's he hasn't been on the field as much. Can you just kind of take me through what he's been through 8 weeks, kind of where he stands
he's just
right
a freshman. He's a kid that has a lot of potential. And when you're doing one or two things as a freshman, you can sort of pick that up. As the package expands, as offenses put a lot more on your plate with motions and tempo and formations, I think sometimes those things grind to a halt, so your athleticism can't take over. So he's a guy that I feel great about going in the future, a guy that's made some strides from spring ball to fall camp. And I think for him, it's not a negative on him. It's just more of a young guy who has to control the entire secondary at his position. It's a lot. And so I think for him, it's as things slow down, his performance goes up, and I think he's a guy that's going to be a good player here in the years to come.
Is it fair to them to say, I'm going to say hit a wall. Wall sounds like it's a negative, but there were so many things before him. He had to sort of take a step back, take a breath, and sort of take it all in.
Yeah, I think he had to let the game slow down for him. When you're playing one defense in spring ball, then your athleticism takes over after about 5 practices, and you can really do some things. As you add more to the package, the more you think, the slower you play. So if you're a 4-4 guy, when you're thinking, you're playing like 4-7-5. And then by that time, Matt Collins is running by you in practice. So I guess my point is, nothing negative about him. It's just the game will slow down for him, and when it does, he's going to be a good player for us.